Some gifts are like fire. They can warm you, or they can burn everything you love to ashes. What would you do if you could see the shadows of death, yet no one else could? Once upon a time, in the village of Okuta, life moved with the steady rhythm of nature. Roosters crowed at dawn. Farmers walked their fields under the hot sun, and children ran barefoot through the dusty paths, their laughter ringing like bells. The village was peaceful, surrounded by lush forests and sparkling streams that stretched as far as the eye could see. And in this small, vibrant village lived a girl named Amanda. Amanda was not the kind of girl who stood out in a crowd. She was quiet, like the still water of a pond, and observant, always noticing the little things that others missed. The way a leaf fluttered strangely in the breeze, the soft sigh of the wind before the rains. Amanda was the kind of person who listened more than she spoke, which made people think she was just shy. But those who knew her, truly knew her, loved her deeply. She had the kind of smile that could make you feel sane, even on your worst day, and she always helped without being asked. Amanda had been raised by her grandmother, Mama Eni, ever since she was a baby. No one knew much about Amanda's parents. They were whispered about in vague tones, but Amanda never asked. Mama Eni was all the family she needed. Mama Eni was the village herbalist, a woman with strong hands and an even stronger heart. People came from all over Okuta to see her, carrying fevers, broken bones, and endless troubles. Mama Eni had a remedy for everything. Amanda spent most of her days helping her grandmother sort herbs, fetch water, and mix potions. Life was simple, steady, and safe. But that all changed one fateful day. It happened while Amanda was walking along the narrow path that led to the village stream. She carried an empty clay pot on her head, humming softly to herself as her feet kicked up little puffs of dust. The sunlight peeked through the trees, dampling the earth with shadows and light. It was an ordinary day, or so Amanda thought. And then she saw it. Right there, on the dusty path, were footprints. But they were not like any footprints that Amanda had ever seen. These ones glowed, faintly, like firelight in the dark. They shimmered on the ground as though the earth itself held secrets. Amanda froze, her heart thudding in her chest. She glanced around, but the forest was empty. Who could have left these, she murmured, staring at the glowing marks. Just then, laughter echoed from behind her, and Amanda turned to see her friend Toby running towards her. Toby was always cheerful, always full of mischief. He waved, out of breath, his fishing net slung over his shoulder. "Amanda, you're staring at the ground like you found gold," he teased, flashing a grin. Amanda blinked, her gaze darting to his feet. And there they were, glowing footprints right under him, brighter than the ones before. Amanda's breath caught in her throat as she counted 1, 2, 7 steps. 7 glowing steps trailed behind Toby like invisible light. "What is wrong?" Toby asked, frowning at her serious face. Amanda shook her head quickly. Nothing at all," she lied, her voice small. Toby laughed again and ran ahead, his footprints glowing behind him, as though lit by a hidden flame. Amanda stayed frozen in place, her fingers trembling against the clay pot. That night, she couldn't sleep. Toby's glowing footprints haunted her mind. Why were they glowing? And why was there only 7? Amanda didn't know it yet, but the glowing footprints would soon reveal a truth that would change her life and the fate of the entire village. 7 days passed. It was an ordinary morning in the village of Okuta when news spread like harmattan winds. Toby was dead. Amanda was grinding millet when she heard the cries. She dropped the pestle, her hands shaking as she rushed outside. A crowd had gathered near the edge of the forest, their voices a chorus of panic and disbelief. Someone whispered, "It was an accident." Another person added, "A tree branch snapped and crushed him instantly." Amanda's feet felt glued to the ground as she heard Mama Eni's voice behind her. "Child, what is it?" Mama Annie asked, frowning at her pale face. But Amanda couldn't speak. She stared towards the forest path where she had seen the glowing footprints 7 days earlier. 7 glowing steps. 7 days! The world felt like it had tilted on its axis. What did I see? Why Toby? Why me? Her mind raced as grief and fear wrapped around her like a snake. That night, Amanda sat outside her grandmother's hut, her knees tucked into her chest. The stars glittered above, but there was no peace in their glow. She couldn't escape the truth. She could see it. Not just footprints, but the number of days someone had to live. Amanda felt cursed. Why would I be shown this? What am I supposed to do? Amanda tried to forget about the glowing footprints. And for the next 2 months, all was quiet as the village mourned the death of Toby. And then it happened again. This time, it was her friend Chika. Amanda and Chika were sitting by the stream, washing cassava roots. Chika was her oldest friend, a lively girl with a loud laugh that could scare birds from the trees. Chika and Amanda had a fun day by the stream. They talked, they gossiped, they laughed. When they were done washing the cassavas, they fetched some water from the stream and headed home, laughing as they went. All of a sudden, Amanda stopped laughing. As Chika walked along the narrow path in front of Amanda, Amanda saw them, glowing footprints under Chika's feet, flickering faintly. Amaka's eyes widened as she counted. 1, 2. Only 2 days. Amaka's stomach twisted. The glow was faint, but it was there. "What's wrong, Amanda?" Chika asked, noticing her frozen stare. Amanda swallowed hard, her heart pounding like the village drum at sunset. "Nothing," she managed to whisper, forcing a smile that felt as thin as dried papyrus. But her mind screamed otherwise. 2 days. Only 2 days. The glowing footprints under Chika's feet burned in Amanda's vision, even as they walked side by side. She just could not unsee them. The rest of their journey home was a blur. Chika laughed and chattered about her younger brother, about the new boy at the market who sold oranges, things Amanda usually listened to with a smile. But today, every laugh Chika gave felt like a cruel trick. At the fork in the park, Chika waved goodbye. "See you tomorrow." Amanda hesitated. "Chika, wait." Chika paused, her head tilting in confusion. "What is it? You look like you've seen a ghost." Amanda opened her mouth, closed it, and then said softly, I don't think you should go to the farm tomorrow. Just stay home." Chika frowned, laughing uneasily. "Why? You sound like my mother now." "Please," Amanda begged, grabbing her friend's hand. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Promise me, stay home tomorrow." Chika's smile faded. Amanda had never spoken like this before. "All right, fine. I'll tell my father I'll help with cassava instead." Amanda let out a shaky breath. "Thank you." That night, Amanda couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Chika's glowing footprints, those faint flickering lights that were fading with every passing moment. 2 days. She sat outside under the moonlight, knees hugged to her chest, whispering prayers she wasn't even sure she knew how to say. What if Chika didn't listen? What if fate couldn't be stopped? Was I wrong to say something, or would I regret it forever if I stayed silent? The next day, Amanda avoided the usual paths near the forest. She knew Chika had stayed home, but dread clung to her like a heavy cloak. What if something happens anyway? Hours crawled by. What if staying home wasn't enough? Could death be avoided just by changing where you went? The sun crawled through the sky, but Amanda's anxiety never faded. In the evening, she heard it. A scream from the village center. Amanda's blood turned to ice. She sprinted towards the sound, her feet pounding the earth. By the time she arrived, a crowd had gathered near the market square, their faces pale with shock. "It's Chika," someone whispered. Amanda's heart dropped. She pushed through the crowd until she saw her friend. Chika lay motionless on the ground. Her basket of cassava roots spilled beside her. The cat from the trader's wagon had broken loose. its heavy wooden wheels now splattered with dirt and blood. She wasn't supposed to be here, someone said. Why did she come to the market today? Amanda's knees buckled and she sank to the ground. I tried to warn her. I tried, she cried to herself. But the glowing footprints had never lied. That night, Amanda sat outside her grandmother's hut, staring up at the indifferent stars, the weight of her gift pressed on her chest like a stone. I told her to stay home. I thought it would help. But faith cannot be fooled. Her grandmother, Mama Eni, shuffled out of the hut and sat beside her. Amanda, child, what is troubling you? Amanda hesitated before whispering. Nana, what if you could see something terrible before it happened? Would you try to stop it? Mama Eni studied her granddaughter with wise, weathered eyes. That is a heavy burden, Amanda. But you must ask yourself, is it your place to stop it or to accept it? Amanda looked away, tears burning her eyes. She didn't know the answer. All she knew was that the glowing footprints had returned, and this time, they had taken her friend. Amanda couldn't sleep after Chika's death. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw her friend's glowing footprints, faint and flickering like a warning she hadn't understood soon enough. She tried to stop herself from looking at people's footprints, but she couldn't. And before she knew, it happened again. This time, it was an older woman named Mama Udo. Amanda had been walking back from the stream when she saw Mama Udo on the path ahead, carrying firewood on her back. Beneath her, slow shuffling steps, Amanda saw them, footprints, glowing faintly, counting down. 3 steps, 3 days. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. She thought of Chika. She thought of Toby. This time, she couldn't stay silent. That evening, Amanda visited Mama Udo's hut. She sat cross-legged on the mat, her hands shaking as she spoke. Mama, please, don't go to the forest tomorrow or the day after. Mama Udo frowned, setting aside her bowl of ground maize. Why, child? What's wrong? Amanda looked down at her hands. I don't know how to explain it, Mama. Just promise me that you will stay home for a few days. Mama Udo sighed, her eyes narrowing. But there was affection in her voice. You sound like your grandmother, Amanda, always sensing things the rest of us cannot see. She shook her head but smiled faintly. Fine, I'll stay home, if it will ease your mind. 3 days passed. On the 3rd morning, the village erupted with news. A wild tree had fallen in the forest. It had crushed a gathering of firewood near the very path Mama Udo usually took. Mama Udo is blessed, people said. If she had been there, Amanda overheard the whispers and felt both relief and dread twisting her chest. I saved her. But what does this mean? Mama Udo was shocked when she heard what had happened. If not for Amanda, she would have been on that same path by the same time that the tree fell. My God, she could not believe it. Amanda had saved her life. But how did she know? Or did she know? Mama Udo was so grateful that she told a few people that it was Amanda that had told her to stay home. And before you knew it, word began to spread. First, it was quietly, then it was like wildfire. She told Mama Udo to stay home, and she survived. That girl knows things. She can see what we cannot. Soon, people began approaching Amanda wherever she went. Women stopped her on the way to the stream. Men blocked her path in the market. Even children tugged at her clothes. Amanda, what should I do tomorrow? Please, Amanda, tell me, is there something that will happen to me? Amanda, should I not go to the farm tomorrow? Amanda didn't know how to answer. She tried to look away, to pretend she saw nothing, but her eyes betrayed her. If she looked too long, the glowing footprints would reveal themselves. Some faint, some bright, each one marking a countdown she could not unsee. At first, Amanda told a few people what she saw. She warned them to be careful, to stay home, so as to avoid dangerous paths. Some listened, others scoffed, only to meet a fate Amanda had warned them and helped them to escape. One day, a young man named Obi confronted her near the well. You told my brother to stay home last week, Obi said, his voice trembling with anger. And he stayed, but he still died. He fell sick and he didn't recover. Amanda's mouth went dry. I didn't mean... What is the point of your warnings if you can't stop death? Obi shouted. His words cut deeper than any knife. You're not helping anyone, Amanda. You're just scaring people. Tears filled Amanda's eyes as she watched him walk away. As the days passed, Amanda began to feel the weight of her gifts crushing her. Some villagers were grateful, calling her a savior. Others avoided her, whispering behind her back. She brings bad luck, they said. She sees death. She's not normal. Mama Emi watched her granddaughter carefully. Amanda, she said one evening, you cannot carry everyone's burden. It is not your place. But what am I supposed to do, Nana? Amanda cried. If I can save someone, shouldn't I try? Mama Emi sighed, her face full of both pride and worry. Sometimes, child, knowing the truth is the heaviest cost of all. That night, Amanda sat alone outside the hut, staring at her bare feet in the moonlight. For the first time, she realized how exhausted she felt. Her gift had turned into a burden she could not escape. What am I supposed to do with this? Warn them? Stay silent? Either way, the footprints always win. She buried her face in her hands as the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the same unspoken truth. Fate could not be avoided forever. Whispers started in the village, and many people became fearful of Amanda. Every little misfortune was blamed on Amanda. Anyone who lost a relative blamed Amanda. She became the talk of the town, and people started asking the council of chiefs to do something about the cursed Amanda. She's meddling with fate, old man Uke muttered to anyone who'd listen. No one should see what she sees. It is not natural. The dead have cursed her, another man whispered. We will all suffer for it. Based on all this, the village chiefs called a meeting. On the morning of the village council meeting, Amanda was summoned. Mama Eni tried to come with her, but the elders said Amanda must come alone. She walked into the square where the elders sat in a semicircle, their faces lined with age and authority. At the center sat Baba Ade, the chief elder, his staff of office planted firmly beside him. The crowd gathered behind her, their murmurs barely contained. Amanda, Baba Ade began, his voice steady but stern. We have heard stories about you, stories of footprints, of death being foretold. Is this true? Amanda nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Baba. The elders exchanged glances. How do you know these things? Another elder asked. I don't know, Amanda said, her hands trembling. I see the footprints. They glow under people's feet, and I can tell how many days they have left. I don't cause it. I just see it. Baba Ade's gaze pierced through her. And when you warn them, what happens then? Amanda hesitated. Sometimes they listen and they are saved. Other times, she trailed off, unable to finish. An elder named Mama Ona slammed her walking stick against the ground. This girl meddles with the ways of the gods. If someone's time has come, it is not for us to change it. But she saved Mama Udo, a voice cried from the crowd. She couldn't save Chika, another person countered. A heated argument erupted among the villagers. Some defended Amanda, while others blamed her for their fear. Baba Ade raised his hand, silencing the crowd. Enough, he commanded. He turned back to Amanda. Child, you have brought great unrest to this village. We will decide how to handle this matter. For now, go home and stay there. Do not speak of these footprints again. Amanda nodded, tears threatening to spill as she hurried away from the square. Behind her, the village buzzed with tension. Days after the council meeting, strange things began to happen in Okuta. The rains, which were always steady this time of the year, suddenly stopped. Day after day, the sun beat down on the fields without mercy. The maize withered, the yams shriveled, even the cassava roots turned black beneath the earth. Why is this happening? The farmers cried, staring helplessly at their dying crops. Have the gods abandoned us? The animals began to fall sick too. Goats lay limp in their pens, their ribs sharp against their skin. Chickens stopped laying eggs. Ever since Amanda started speaking of death, someone muttered at the market, nothing has been the same. Soon, people began falling ill. It started with a fever, a heat so intense that even the cool evening breeze brought no relief. Children cried in their mothers' arms. Men shivered as they lay weak on their mats. The village healer tried herbs and prayers, but nothing worked. This sickness is not natural, she warned, her face grim. Something has upset the balance. Fear gripped the village. Neighbors began to turn on each other, their voices sharp with suspicion. "You brought this on us," one man shouted at his neighbor. "No, it's her," another one pointed towards Amanda's hut. "Ever since she started saying things, this village has suffered." Amanda could hear their voices from inside her grandmother's hut. She covered her ears, trying to block out the noise. "It is my fault. All of this is my fault," she thought to herself. One night, someone threw a stone at the roof. Another morning, she saw a mark smeared across the door, a symbol of bad luck. The elders, desperate for answers, turned to the village priest. He ventured into the secret forest to consult the oracle. When he returned, his face was pale. "The oracle has spoken," he announced to the council. "Amanda's gift is disrupting the natural order of destinies. The gods are angry." "What must we do?" Baba Ade asked. "The girl must stop," the priest said. "She must speak of the footprints no more. If she does, the balance will break further, and death will come for us all." The villagers listened, their faces a mix of fear and hope. Amanda sat in silence as Mama Eni relayed the priest's message. "You must stop, child," her grandmother said softly. "No more warnings." Amanda stared at the ground. "But what if I see someone's footprints again? How can I just stay silent?" "Because it is not your burden to bear," Mama Eni said, her voice firm but gentle. That night, Amanda had a dream. She stood in a vast field, the grass glowing silver beneath her feet. Ahead, a woman dressed in white appeared. Her face was hidden, but her voice echoed all around. "You carry a gift, Amanda," the woman said, "but it is not for you to wield like a weapon." "I don't understand," Amanda whispered. "I only wanted to help." "Every footprint you reveal shifts the balance of life and death," the woman said. "You must learn humility, child. Fate is not yours to control." Amanda woke up with a start, her heart pounding. The next day, Amanda saw them. Glowing footprints under Mama Eni's feet. Her grandmother moved slowly, humming as she stirred a pot of soup. Amanda's throat tightened. 3 steps. 3 days. Her instinct screamed at her to speak, to warn, to save. But the woman's words echoed in her mind. Fate is not yours to control. Amanda gripped her knees, tears welling in her eyes. She watched her grandmother, the glowing footprints flickering faintly beneath her. But she stayed silent. Amanda spent the next 3 days in torment. Each time she looked at Mama Eni, the glowing footprints haunted her. She tried to focus on her daily task, fetching water, sweeping the compound, but her mind was elsewhere. Her grandmother noticed. "You've been quiet, child," she said one evening, setting down her pot of palm wine. "Is something troubling you?" Amanda shook her head quickly, avoiding her gaze. The 3rd day came like a thief in the night. As the sun set, Mama Eni sat on her mat, humming an old tune. "Amanda, fetch me some water," she said, her voice as calm as ever. Amanda stood, but before she could step away, Mama Eni slumped forward. The calabash she had been holding tumbled to the floor. "Grandma!" Amanda cried, rushing to her side. But it was too late. Mama Eni's face was peaceful, her eyes closed as if she had simply fallen asleep. Amanda sobbed, clutching her grandmother's hand. The glowing footprints were gone now, leaving only an empty void in their place. The news spread quickly. Mama Eni was loved by everyone. Her death brought the villagers together in a way that Amanda hadn't seen in weeks. She lived a full life, one elder said during the burial. May her soul rest in peace. But Amanda couldn't shake the guilt. She felt the weight of her silence crushing her. Could I have saved her? Should I have saved her? That night she sat by the fire, staring into the flames. She thought of the woman in white and her words. Fate is not yours to control. The event of Mama Eni's passing seemed to calm the unrest in the village. The rains returned, the crops slowly revived, and the sickness began to fade. But Amanda was not at peace. One morning, Amanda went to the elders' council uninvited. She knelt before them, her head bowed. "Baba Ade, I need to speak," she began. The elders exchanged glances, wary but cautious. "Speak, child," Baba Ade said. "I have stopped speaking of the footprints," Amanda said. "I've stayed silent, but my heart is heavy. I feel lost. I don't know if I did the right thing." Mama Ona leaned forward. "And what do you want from us, girl?" "I need to understand my gift," Amanda said, her voice trembling. "Why was I given this sight if I'm not meant to use it? What is the purpose of something that only brings pain?" The elders felt silent. It was the village priest who finally spoke. "Perhaps the purpose is not for you to understand now," he said. "Gifts from the gods are rarely straightforward. They test us, mold us, and sometimes they humble us." Amanda nodded, though her heart still ached. In the weeks that followed, Amanda found herself at crossroads. The villagers were still wary of her. Some avoided her entirely, while others approached her quietly, asking questions she refused to answer. One evening, she packed a small bundle of clothes and food. The thought of leaving Okuta and starting afresh somewhere else was tempting. As she stood at the edge of the village, the woman in white appeared in her mind again. Her voice a whisper this time. "Your path is here, Amanda. You must face it, not run from it." With a deep breath, Amanda turned back. Amanda decided to stay in Okuta, but on her own terms. She stopped trying to warn people about their footprints. Instead, she began to help in other ways. Tending the sick, helping with the harvest, and comforting those who had lost loved ones. Slowly, the villagers' perception of her began to shift. They no longer saw her as a harbinger of doom, but as a girl trying to make amends. Amanda still saw the glowing footprints, but she learned to let them pass without interference. Each step she took in this new path felt like a small victory, a step towards understanding her place in the world. Months later, Amanda faced her greatest test. One morning, she saw glowing footprints beneath the feet of a small boy named Ekene. He was just 5 years old, with a laugh that lit up the village square. Amanda's heart broke at the sight. She clenched her fists, her resolve wavering. "No, Amanda," she told herself. "You have learned your lesson. You cannot interfere." But as the days passed, her resolve crumbled. She couldn't bear the thought of Ekene's bright laughter being silenced. Finally, she went to Ekene's mother. "Please," Amanda said, her voice shaking. "Keep Ekene close to you. Don't let him wander far." The woman gave her a puzzled look, but nodded. "I will, Amanda. I will." 2 days later, Ekene's mother caught him just as he was about to run into the path of a charging bull. The boy was saved, but Amanda felt a chill run through her. That night, Amanda fell asleep, in a restless sleep, haunted by Ekene's laughter and the glowing footprints she had seen beneath him. In her dream, the woman in white appeared again, but this time, her face was shadowed and her presence felt colder. "You interfered, Amanda," the spirit said, her voice heavy with disappointment. Amanda fell to her knees. "He was just a boy. I had to try to save him." The spirit's gaze bore into her. "And what did you save him from?" Amanda froze, her breath caught in her throat. "I saved him from the bull. He would have been trampled." The spirit shook her head slowly. "You do not understand. Ekene's death was written. You delayed it, but fate cannot be denied. The balance has been disturbed." Suddenly, the spirit stretched out her hand, and Amanda saw visions flash before her eyes. She saw Ekene, now older, maybe in his 30s, standing over a field of dead bodies, his hands drenched in blood. His laughter echoed, but it was no longer innocent. It was cruel, sinister. Ekene had grown up to become a killer. "No," Amanda whispered, shaking her head. "No, that can't be him. That can't be true." The spirit stepped closer. "You have turned one tragedy into another. The cost of tampering with destiny is greater than you can comprehend." Amanda woke up with a gasp, her heart pounding. She stumbled outside, the cool night air doing little to calm her racing thoughts. She couldn't forget the vision, Ekene's face, twisted into something monstrous. What had she done? Oh my God, what had she done? The village was silent except for the distant croak of frogs, but something felt wrong, as if the air itself had shifted. The next day, the village awoke to strange news. A nearby river had dried up overnight. Crops that had seemed healthy the day before had withered in the fields. And at the edge of the forest, hunters reported seeing a dark figure, tall and unmoving, watching them through the shadows. Amanda avoided the villagers, their whispers growing louder. They blamed her again. Their suspicion rekindled. Late that evening, as the village prepared for nightfall, Amanda noticed something she hadn't seen before. Faint, glowing footprints leading away from her hut. But these weren't like the others. These ones were larger, heavier, and they burned a very bright red color. Her chest tightened as she followed them, her bare feet silent against the dirt path. The footprints led her deep into the forest, where the trees seemed to close in around her. And then they stopped, just outside a clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing stood a ghane, his back turned to her. He was humming a familiar tune, the same one her grandmother used to hum. But something was wrong. His body seemed too still, his posture too rigid. "Ekene!" Amanda cried out, her voice trembling. He turned slowly, and Amanda's breath caught in her throat. His eyes glowed red, and his once innocent smile was now a sinister grin. "You shouldn't have interfered, Amanda," he said, his voice layered with something dark and ancient. "Now it begins." The ground beneath her feet trembled, and the trees around the clearing seemed to shiver. Amanda tried to step back, but her feet wouldn't move, and then the forest went completely silent. The next morning, the villagers noticed that Amanda's hut was empty. No one had seen her since the previous evening. At the edge of the forest, they found a single set of glowing red footprints leading deeper into the trees. But no one dared to follow. But at night, those who lived closest to the forest swore they heard Amanda's voice, whispering their names in the wind. And so, the story of Amanda and her cursed gift fades into the whispers of the forest, a tale that leaves more questions than answers. What truly became of Amanda? Was her gift ever meant to save lives? Or was it a curse that was designed to teach the village, and perhaps all of us, a lesson about the weight of tampering with faith? Some say her voice still calls out on quiet nights, warning those who dare to listen. Others believe her story is a reminder that some truths are better left unseen, and some paths are better left untrodden. What do you think? Would you follow those glowing footprints, knowing where they might lead? Let me know your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that leave you wondering what lies beyond the ordinary. Until next time, stay curious and beware of footprints that glow.
Without understanding the institution left over from the Cultural Revolution, people would not understand China's economic reform, because the whole thing started from the inherited institutions from the Cultural Revolution. So here the key is really regionally decentralized totalitarian system, in the sense that all the local governments, all the different levels of local governments have the resources and control what they are going to do. My name is Chenggang Xu. I'm a professor of economics at CKGSB, which is a private business school in China. When people claim that the rise of China is the biggest event in the recent economic history in the world, the qualification is the following. If we look at the issues from the point of view of the total GDP, so within 30 years, in terms of a growth rate of total GDP, China has break the record. And then the other issue is, the other qualification is poverty relief. So within this 30 years of time, the largest poverty relief happened in China. So that is a very important issue. And then the third aspect is the relative economic development. the so-called relative economic development is measured by the per capita GDP compared with the world frontier. So, for example, if we take the United States per capita GDP as world frontier, then comparing with the world frontier from the beginning of this 30 years to the end of this 30 years, so what is the change level? So actually, these three aspects are closely related. Number one issue is the population of China. So given China is the most populous nation, given the size of population, and then once you have a fast relative economic growth, the growth of relative economic development, and then you have this total GDP increase. So these are intimately related. And another intimately related issue is that at the very beginning of the Chinese economic reform, China was one of the poorest nations. So this is actually a key point. So when the reform started, if we are talking about relative economic development level, China was about something like 1/20th of the US level. So that's significantly below the level of the average Africa per capita GDP. We are talking about such a very, very low level. So it's desperately poor. So starting from this very low level, and then after 30 years, nowadays the Chinese relative development level is close to 1/4 of the US level. So started from 1/20th up to nearly 1/4. So in that sense, it's a huge change. So if we only look at these factors, then yes, this is the biggest event in economic history. But some other claims are, without qualification, can be exaggerations. So when people talk China as a superpower, for example, if we look at the per capita GDP level, it's less than 1/4 of the US level. So if we compare China with the Soviet Union at its peak time, Soviet Union was significantly more than 1/3 of the US per capita GDP level. So China is still below that.